Tax lien enforcement is the legal process that allows government authorities to collect unpaid property taxes. Once a property owner fails to pay taxes within the timeframe established by state law, the unpaid amount becomes a lien against the property. A tax lien is not merely a bill owed. It is a legal claim that attaches to the real estate and must be resolved before clear title can be transferred. Because property taxes fund essential public services such as schools, fire protection, and infrastructure maintenance, state and local governments are given strong authority to recover delinquent taxes. Tax lien enforcement ensures that the tax base remains stable and that communities have the revenue required to function. In this section, you will learn how tax liens are enforced, the different tools governments use to collect delinquent taxes, and what rights and options property owners have throughout the enforcement process. This ties directly to previous lessons, where you learned how ad valorem taxation works, how special assessments are applied, and how tax districts rely on consistent tax collection. Once you understand how taxes are levied, the next essential step is knowing what happens when they are not paid. Sale of tax certificates. In many states, one of the first steps in forcing payment of delinquent taxes is the sale of tax certificates. A tax certificate is a document sold to an investor who agrees to pay the overdue taxes on a property. By purchasing the certificate, the investor steps into the government's position as the lien holder. In return, the investor is entitled to collect the amount paid, plus interest and penalties from the property owner. The interest rate varies from state to state. For example, an investor might buy a certificate of $2,000 in delinquent taxes at a competitive bid, where investors compete by offering the lowest interest rate they are willing to accept. A certificate might sell at 12% interest in one state or as low as 3% in another, depending on local law and bidding. Once the redemption period begins, the property owner may reclaim the property by paying the delinquent taxes, interest, and fees to the investor rather than to the county. If the owner fails to redeem the property within the statutory redemption period, the certificate holder can apply for a tax deed, moving the property closer to foreclosure. This process encourages timely tax payments, gives investors a potential return, and allows governments to receive needed tax revenue without delay. Tax deeds. When delinquent taxes remain unpaid beyond the redemption period established by state law, the tax certificate holder may apply for a tax deed. A tax deed is a legal instrument that conveys ownership of a property due to non-payment of taxes. When a tax deed is issued, the investor or the winning bidder at a tax sale receives title to the property, subject to any remaining rights provided under state law. Applying for a tax deed typically triggers a legal foreclosure process. The taxing agency notifies the property owner and any other parties with a recorded interest, such as mortgage lenders, judgment creditors, or homeowners associations. After all required notices have been given and the statutory timeframes have expired, a court may authorize the issuance of a tax deed. Once a tax deed is conveyed, the former owner's rights are extinguished unless state law provides an additional redemption period after the deed is issued. Real estate professionals must understand that a tax deed is not the same as a warranty deed. A tax deed transfers whatever interest the taxing authority holds, but may not guarantee clear title. Buyers of tax deed properties often conduct extensive due diligence and may obtain quiet title actions to secure marketable title. Tax sales. Some states do not use tax certificates and instead enforce delinquent taxes through direct tax sales. A tax sale is an auction in which the taxing authority sells either the tax lien itself or the property. In a lien sale, investors bid to pay the delinquent amount in exchange for the right to collect interest and eventual repayment. In a deed sale, the property itself is sold to the highest bidder. Tax sales usually occur after a specific waiting period, often 1 to 3 years after taxes become delinquent. Before the sale takes place, the property owner receives notices and opportunities to pay the debt. if the owner pays the overdue taxes, penalties, and costs before the sale occurs, the owner exercises what is known as the equitable right of redemption. Once the sale has taken place, the owner may still have the statutory right of redemption for a period defined by law. During this statutory redemption period, the owner can reclaim the property by paying the purchaser the full amount paid at auction, as well as additional taxes, interest, and allowable fees. If the owner does not redeem the property within the statutory redemption period, the purchaser receives the tax deed and becomes the new legal owner. For example, imagine a property with $5,000 in unpaid taxes. The county schedules a tax sale where the winning bidder pays the amount due. If the former owner redeems the property 3 months later, they must reimburse the bidder the full $5,000 plus interest and fees. If they do not redeem, the bidder becomes the property owner at the end of the redemption period. Example of a county tax lien sale process. In many areas, tax lien sales occur annually. A county may compile all parcels with delinquent taxes as of December and offer those liens for sale in February. Parcels are advertised in local newspapers several weeks before the auction so that investors can research them. The investor who purchases a lien must perform due diligence by reviewing zoning, property condition, floodplain status, and any additional liens. If the property owner fails to redeem within the statutory redemption period, the investor may pursue judicial foreclosure and obtain a deed to the property. This system protects government revenue while offering investment opportunities for informed buyers. State tax liens. In addition to local property tax liens, state governments may place liens on property for unpaid state taxes, including income taxes or state-level property taxes. A state tax lien is a legal claim that gives the state priority over other creditors. When a property is encumbered by a state tax lien, the owner generally cannot sell or refinance until the lien is satisfied. Consider the example of a homeowner who has not paid state income taxes for 2 years. The state identifies the delinquency and files a lien against the owner's home, preventing the sale of the property until the debt is satisfied. Because liens are public records, they may also appear on the homeowner's credit report, significantly lowering their credit score and limiting future borrowing opportunities. To remove a state tax lien, the taxpayer must first confirm the exact balance owed. Payment may be made through a lump sum payment or a structured repayment agreement. Once the taxes are paid, the state can release the lien. However, credit bureaus may not update records automatically. The taxpayer must submit proof of payment to have the lien removed from their report. In some situations, an unpaid state tax lien may remain on a credit report for up to 10 years, even after release. Additionally, attempting to remove a lien through bankruptcy can severely harm the taxpayer's financial history. The most effective solution is prompt repayment and careful documentation, including retaining receipts and written confirmations from the tax authority. Review summary. Tax lien enforcement ensures that governments can collect delinquent property taxes and maintain funding for essential services. When taxes go unpaid, taxing authorities may sell tax certificates to investors or conduct tax sales in which liens or properties are auctioned. Investors who buy tax certificates can earn interest and may eventually obtain a tax deed if the owner does not redeem the property. A tax deed transfers ownership after foreclosure. Property owners retain equitable and statutory redemption rights depending on state law, giving them opportunities to reclaim their property by paying the taxes owed. State tax liens for unpaid income or state taxes can also attach to property and restrict its sale. Removing such liens requires full payment or a formal repayment plan. Tax lien enforcement highlights the importance of timely tax payments and illustrates how unpaid taxes can impact ownership, credit, and the ability to transfer property. Discussion. Why is tax lien enforcement important for local governments? Answer. Tax lien enforcement ensures that local governments maintains sufficient revenue to fund essential services, such as schools, emergency response, infrastructure, and community operations. Without a reliable enforcement system, property tax collection would weaken and public services would suffer. How does a tax certificate differ from a tax deed? Answer: A tax certificate gives an investor the right to collect delinquent taxes plus interest and possibly pursue a tax deed after the redemption period. A tax deed conveys actual ownership of the property after foreclosure. What is the difference between equitable redemption and statutory redemption? Answer: equitable redemption allows the property owner to pay overdue taxes before the tax sale and prevent the sale. Statutory redemption allows the owner to reclaim the property after the sale by reimbursing the buyer within the timeframe set by state law. Why must property owners maintain proof that a tax lien has been paid? Answer: tax liens do not always disappear automatically from public or credit records. Proof of payment is necessary to have the lien formally released and removed from credit reports to prevent complications when selling or financing property. Closing remarks. Tax lien enforcement is one of the most powerful tools that governments use to secure property tax revenue. Understanding how liens are created, redeemed, sold, and ultimately enforced is essential for real estate professionals. These processes affect buyers, sellers, investors, lenders, and title companies. By mastering the details of tax lien enforcement, you can better guide clients through transactions involving delinquent taxes, protect their interests, and help them avoid costly surprises at closing. This knowledge builds upon your understanding of ad valorem taxation, special assessments, and tax districts, giving you a complete picture of how real property taxes function from assessment to enforcement.